thou hast loved us still.
He who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. A stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. This figure Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So Jesus again said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not heed them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." This ends the reading of the gospel lesson.
My history professor in seminary, Dr. Carl Bangs, told of one time when he was honored with a chance to read the gospel lesson at the cathedral at Canterbury, England. And it so happened that the Archbishop of Canterbury, you don't get much higher than that, the Archbishop of Canterbury was reading and leading a litany before Dr. Bangs. So you have to understand that, like the picture there, the pulpit is up on the side of a pillar with this curving stairs, and there's a little door entering into the pulpit box. And when the Archbishop got up there, he tried it, and he couldn't get the latch to open, and he fooled with it for a minute or so, and finally he hiked up his robe and stepped over the gate. And he did the litany, and fortunately on his way out, he was able to open the door. And Dr. Bangs came up, and he read from the gospel lesson, John 10, verse 1. "Verily, verily, I say to you, he who hath entered not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber." That was what Jesus was talking about. That was what Jesus was talking about, because this passage comes right after the time when Jesus healed the man who was born blind. And he was talking to the Pharisees and the scribes and the priests, and he was explaining that this man was born blind, but now he sees. Those who think they see are blind, and the priests were upset about it, so he tries to use a different parable. He talks about the sheepfold. And the priests and the Pharisees are the ones who climb over the wall and steal from the people. Because all they give them is rules and regulations, and they look down their noses at them. They don't give them love. The people turn to them for their religious help, for their faith, and it's not there. These people are thieves. They climb over the wall. It was then, it is now. We have a lot of things climbing over the wall. We live in a nation. We live in a nation of idols. We have more gods today than they had back in the Roman days. We've got money and power and wealth and always lower prices. We are addicted to that, aren't we? We'll buy something half as good because it's half the price. And wealth and luxury and all the things we are lifted up to believe in. Because we're supposed to believe in that. And these ideas climb over the walls of our soul and take away the light of the glory of Jesus Christ. Even our church, even the United Methodist Church got blinded back 150 years ago when former Methodist pastor and district superintendent John Shivington said, God wills it. And he rode with his volunteer troops into that peaceful village on Sand Creek. And I am offended by that. I am hurt by that. There's an evil. You see, the government took away his commission, but the Methodist Church gave him back, or continued to allow him to be a preacher and a district superintendent. So not just him. We can't just blame him. We have to blame everybody. And it's not just blaming them back then. It's understanding that we bear the pain of those atrocious acts because something climbed in over the wall. It's not the only way things climb over the wall. Let's hear that video now.
I have 422 friends, yet I'm lonely. I speak to all of them every day, yet none of them really know me. The problem I have sits in the spaces between looking into their eyes or at a name on a screen. I took a step back and opened my eyes. I looked around and realised that this media we call social is anything but when we open our computers and it's our doors we shut. All this technology we have, it's just an illusion. Community, companionship, a sense of inclusion. Yet when you step away from this device of delusion, you awaken to see a world of confusion. A world where we're slaves to the technology we mastered, where information gets sold by some rich, greedy bastard. A world of self-interest, self-image, self-promotion, where we all share our best bits but leave out the emotion. We're at our most happy with an experience we share, but is it the same if no one is there? Be there for your friends, and they'll be there too, but no one will be if a group message will do. We edit and exaggerate, crave adulation. We pretend not to notice the social isolation. We put our words into order until our lives are glistening. We don't even know if anyone is listening. Being alone isn't a problem. Let me just emphasise, if you read a book, paint a picture, or do some exercise, you're being productive and present, not reserved and recluse. You're being awake and attentive and putting your time to good use. So when you're in public and you start to feel alone, put your hands behind your head, step away from the phone. You don't need to stare at your menu or at your contact list. Just talk to one another. Learn to coexist. I can't stand to hear the silence of a busy commuter train where no one wants to talk through the fear of looking insane. We're becoming unsocial. It no longer satisfies to engage with one another and look into someone's eyes. We're surrounded by children who, since they were born, have watched us living like robots and think it's the norm. It's not very likely you'll make world's greatest dad if you can't entertain a child without using an iPad. So don't give in to a life where you follow the hype. Give people your love. Don't give them your like. Disconnect from the need to be heard and defined. Go out into the world, leave distractions behind. Look up from your phone, shut down that display. Stop watching this video, live life the real way.
The irony is that the way this was spread was by social media. We've been struggling with the idea of media since 1920-something when radio came. It's been 62 years since the first televisions came into our home. My parents bought one of the first ones in Nickerson, Kansas. I remember laying on my bed, moved my bed over so I could look through the door and watch TV at night, and I still fall asleep if I lay down on my side and watch television, just like that. We had Uncle Milty. You can trust your car to the man who wears the star. Dinah Shore, who see the USA in your Chevrolet. And then some that some of you don't remember. It hasn't had a lot of play. George and Gracie cooking up something wonderful with carnation evaporated milk from contented cows. It brought us the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It brought the Vietnam War into our living room and put us on the moon with Neil Armstrong. And in between, those snippets of the world and the laugh tracks. 15 minutes out of every hour, you are receiving a sermon. Would I had 15 minutes of every hour of your life. The sermon is, you need it. You want it. You must have it. You are not enough without it. You got ring around the collars. Everyone has seen those dirty rings, so you need to wipe in the whisk. That's an old commercial some of you remember. But it's the same story over and over, whether it's a car or it is a medication or finding a mate online. You need it, you want it, you can have it. Just get out your credit card. It's just $19.95. You can get 2 of them by paying the shipping and handling on both. We are addicted to this. This is a thief coming in over the wall, into our lives, into our homes, into our phones, and it's capturing us, and socially it's killing us. TV gives us something that's not quite real. I remember years ago watching the TV show Seventh Heavens about a pastor and his family. He's not much of a preacher. The time he had to write a sermon, he had a terrible time doing it. I'm wondering what was he doing for 2 decades, writing sermons every week. And then in another show, his daughter's friend was cutting herself. She hated herself so much she was cutting herself. At the end, they asked, well, what can we do, Dad? And he gathers some of his kids around him on the stairs and says, well, we just have to pull for her. And I said, pull? You're at a parsonage, man. You don't have to say pull. But he wasn't in a parsonage. Remember that. He was on a set, and he was reciting lines, and somebody somewhere thought the word pray was too dangerous. Because television is afraid of prayer. In prayer, we might discover something that's very important. We might discover that Jesus said, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. What does Jesus mean by that? We know people who do not have an abundant life. They don't have enough money to have an abundant life. We all hit a point sometime in our lives when we kind of need something and we don't have it. And yet we say that Jesus brings an abundant life. That's because we have moved God into our universe. Since 1400, we've been in the process of bringing God into this universe as it's called a theistic God, theism. And theism says that God is in this universe. God is the one in the gaps of things we don't know. We just say God did it. But then science has been finding out answers for all those things, and poor God is just dwindling and dwindling and dwindling, and he's almost out of work, and a reduction in force, RIF, and maybe RIP. We have no use for God, this theistic God in this world, and God is dead. Well, I find the theistic God as being way too limited. First of all, the universe started at a particular time. Big Bang, we've proven that. Whippy. So God cannot be in this universe if God is eternal. That's the first argument. God is that which we cannot imagine. We say holy God. We have to say holy, holy, holy God because we can't say holy big enough. God's holiness is wholly outside of our universe, and we cannot get our minds around it. It's like the sun. God's holiness is like the sun. This huge ball of fire, unimaginable. We cannot think about it. And that fire, that light from that fire heads out in all directions. Most of it, the vast majority of that, becomes a little speck of light on a far-off planet in a night sky. But a tiny portion of that light, narrow portion, no more than 2 pennies out of $1 trillion, lands on this earth. And it's everything we need for everything we have. Everything on this earth is because of sunlight. That is like the glory of God. The light that strikes our walls, comes in the windows, is not the whole sun, but it's like the light from the sun. It is the light from the sun. It's a portion we can handle. And the glory of God is the portion of God that we can handle. Nothing I say gets past this glory. The greatest glory is to see Jesus Christ, because he shows us what that light is really, really like. And it's not just sweetness and light, it's also darkness and pain and suffering, because that happens here too. I guess I'm not a theist. I might be calling me an atheist, because I believe God is much bigger than anything we can name. And yet God is right here. How is God right here when God is not inside the universe? Because I think that God is just in front of us in time. Nothing's happened yet in the next instant. It hasn't happened. If you think you know what's going to happen, you're a pretty good guesser. And how many times have you planned carefully so that everything went right and you weren't a good guesser? No, God exists outside the universe just in front of us. And God is offering you the best possibility in each instant. God comes through the door, who is Jesus Christ. And he calls your name. And he leads you out to the green pastures. He puts you beside the still waters. He makes you whole. He guides you on paths that you have no idea where it's going to lead. But they are paths of justice in his name. That's what comes through the gate of the sheepfold. We are offered that, and that's ours to accept. All I can use are metaphors, similes. Savior, like a shepherd, lead us. To trust our shepherd, to trust our God, beyond the things that happen. We have good and we have bad. But beyond that is God, who's in charge of it all. And in understanding that, we start to understand that love has never, ever led us. One last point. I ran out of time. Often we say, God will never give us more than we can handle. I don't believe that. I think we get whatever we get, because that's the way the world works. But we never get anything without God with us to give us the strength to handle it. Never are we reduced by any kind of oppression. No, we are called to fight oppression, to fight injustice, and to love. And follow the shepherd who keeps us in the sheep gate.